Welcome to stage 60, more muscles for the right leg, and this is going to be a brilliant issue. In fact, I think I would rate it 10 out of Tendon. What could possibly go wrong? Let's start as always with a parts check. So stage piece 1, right leg joint, and that's this piece here, that's metal. Piece 2 is the tendon for the right leg, and just like the last issue, this is plastic, but I don't think it needs to be anything more than plastic. Piece 3 is a ring for the tendon, and that's rubber. Piece 4 is the center part for the joint, that's plastic. Now let's open this bag. Now we've got an unusual bag today, it feels a little bit softer. So there is a mix of screws, and if you take your time, you think about things, it's quite easy to figure it all out. So we begin with piece 5, 2 times M3 nuts. Well, that's obvious that there's only one that is a nut. The next one is the 66 PM 3x12 mil. So let's just skip. We've got PMs, PWBs. So the PWBs we know are these ones, which these are PWBs 2x5 mil screws. So that's piece 8. So that leaves us with 6 and 7, and we've got, they're both 3 mil across, and one is 12 and one is 16 mil. So we'll do a comparison, and we can see that one is longer than the other, so this must be the 16 and this therefore must be the 12. So that's our part saw today. So I'm going to put I'm going to get ready. No, let's go straight into it. I was going to sort my screws out, but I think for now we can put these on the table. So step 1, we need to take our center of the joint, and you see there we've got 3 pegs, and then what we need to be doing is taking piece 1, we need to place that into there. We see we've got 3 holes. So what I'm going to do is just do a little test fit, and right, that is really stiff, but it will go in. So right, it's tempting to say, because it's such a tight fit, that maybe I don't need to glue it, but I think what's going to happen is this is going to be used for a joint, so it's all going to be enclosed. However, saying that, I don't want it to slip. I think there's a couple of these pegs that are a little bit tight, so there's nothing stopping the other pegs from coming out. So what I'm going to do, it does say to put glue into these holes, and I did do that on the last stage, but I think this time around I'm going to put the pegs, glue onto the pegs. So I'm going to put not a massive dollop, but plenty, and then just for a bit of safe measure we'll go around the peg. We don't want to go in between the pegs, because as you can see there's nothing to stick them to, so these will be held on only by the pegs. So give that a very good push. If you want to, pop it on the table and push down on it, make sure they really are in place, because if they're not quite down enough it could affect the movement on the tendons. So while that's drying, we could be working on another one of these. So this is piece 62, and we need the tendon ring 63. Now if you notice, just like last week, the hole on that side is larger than the other side, and we want to pop the larger hole over the tendon, and then we need to get a PWB 2x5mm screw, exactly the same as the previous issue, and we're going to screw that one onto there like that. Now, I did mention last week, one thing I did notice actually, they're calling these PWB screws. Last week they called them PWMs. Let me just double check. Yes, I think they are the exact same screw, because this is plastic, so you wouldn't put a metal screw. So looking at last week's screw, I think they are absolutely the same. So I think there was a bit of a mistake last week which went unnoticed because it was so small and insignificant. Now, as I said last week, when we did these on the arms, these tendons, these had a tendency to come off because the screw wasn't very wide, and this time they've given us a wider screw, which is now gonna hold that in place. So if you are having trouble with the arm tendons, you now have two spare screws, one from this week, one from last week, so you could actually go into the arm and you could actually fix that, no problems. So that's that bit done. Now I've not tightened it too much. I don't know how tight it needs to go. We know where these are going, but if you have these too tight, it's going to squash that and make it bigger, and it's not going to move. If you have it too loose, it's just going to be too loose. So right now, I'm not going to adjust it because I don't know how much to. So moving on to step 6, we need to take one of these M3 nuts, and I'm just playing around with the tweezers because it's just easier to show you with the tweezers. But it's just a regular M3 3mm nut. Now what M3 means is, the M means it's a machine screw, and the 3mm is the hole in the middle, so it will take a 3mm screw, which is by coincidence the same width as these two screws here. So we can guess that one of these two, that's not going to play ball, one of these two screws is going to go into there. So what we need to do with this nut is we need to take the tendon that we've just made, and we need to place that into there, and you will notice that hole is hexagonal and it needs to go in correctly, which that hasn't. So sometimes it's easy if you pop the tweezers into the nut, sometimes it isn't. And you just need to line it up the correct way. If it's not lined up well, it won't go in, and because that's an exact fit, I'm just going to use this just to test, but when you pop this screw in, you see that the nut is staying still, whereas if it wasn't in there, you can see that as you turn the nut, as you turn the screw, the whole nut goes. Another way to put this nut in, I just remembered, if you're struggling to get it in there, pop the nut onto the end of a screw, and then you can use that screw as a handle, and then once you've got that nut in place, undo the screw and you see that the nut stays in there. And I don't think that's going to need gluing, doesn't tell us to. So what we need to do next is we need to take our other tendon that we made at issue 54. Again, I believe they're exactly the same as issue, well, this one's got a 1 on it, but it says in the magazine that it should have a 2 on it. So either I've got the incorrect parts or they are absolutely identical, but we'll get to find out soon, won't we? Excuse me. So what I need to do now is I need to bring in the whole model, and I'm going to be placing him face down because we're going to be working on the back of the leg. So that means I need to reposition his arm because his arm was forward. So here is the model, and ideally I'd like him on his side, but it's not going to be easy to position him on his side. I'm going to see if I can move his arm around. The problem I have with my arm is the tendons seem to be a little bit funny, and I can only move his arm up and round. I can only move it in one direction. So if I need to move his arm down, I actually need to move it up all the way round, dislocate it, come round, but it gets there. So I've just lost another finger. This is what happens with the arms. So I am struggling for a position, but this will have to do for now. So let's move this leg out of the way. No, we're working on the back, aren't we? Of course we are. So this is the area that we're working on. This is the leg that we've done in previous weeks. And what we need to do is take the assembly from stage 59, which is last week. So bear with me while I find that. It is this one. Okay, so we take, yeah, of course, because we put this one on. Right, so the assembly from last week is this. Sorry, this is the assembly. I keep forgetting when you add anything to the main body, they then rename that the issue that you worked on. So this is the assembly from stage 59. And then what we need to do is identify the fixing point, which is there for the muscle at the outside of the pelvis. Note that the model assembly is lying face downwards at this stage. Step 10, position the muscle connector, which is this one, and that will go this way round. Yeah, so it's actually going to be going this way round, and that will connect there. And we need to connect that with a PM 3x12mm screw, which is the smaller one. Now I would suggest the easiest way to do that is to pop the screw in there like so, and use that as a guide. And then just want to see if this leg will move around a little bit. There we go. So I just want to move that round just so this bit wasn't in the way of my screwdriver. And I'm going to screw this in. It's going into plastic. I'm a little bit worried about this because the screw head looks possibly smaller than the tendon, which it actually isn't. It's ever so slightly bigger. Right, so I've screwed that until it tightens, which means that there's less resistance, more resistance there. So I'm just going to back it off ever so slightly. There we go. So there's movement there, and it does also say in the magazine, note that the straighter side of the connection goes towards the center of the model. So this is definitely the correct way round. So this is now the next step, and it's showing us that this is in place. So you can see that with this tendon and these two tendons, you can see that there's going to be a muscle going there. So let's have a look at the next stage then. Okay, so for the next stage we need to flip this over onto its back, and then we need to take the muscle connector from the previous issue, and that's this one. And the way we know the difference is we're on issue 60 and we had to put a nut into this one, so it's the one without the nut. And what we need to do is we need to pop this into here like so, and this is where we can test the tension. So that's interesting, because near the back, I'm really sorry guys, you can't see this, Right, so with a short length you can see that that moves backwards and forwards by itself. However, with a long length it's actually quite stiff. So I'm just going to try and tighten this just maybe half a turn. Remember that if I tighten it too much I won't be able to get it into the end. There we go. I think that's actually okay. I'm going to loosen it off. It feels a little bit too stiff, so I'm just going to back it off just a quarter of a turn. There we go, and that's in there. I think it's going to be actually operating near the end anyway, so there you go. That I'm happy with. So we've got all of that movement, and then on to step 13. This shows the tendon fitted into the front thigh muscle, and then we need to turn it over again. Why we couldn't have done this first when we had it on its back, I do not know. So this is the back, and we need to take the tendon 62, which is this one here, and we need to take the tendon 62 assembled in step 7 and fit it into the end of the muscle assembly from stage 54 fitted in step 10. So what I'm going to do is, just like the previous stage, be careful you've got this nut in the end. So I'm going to hold my thumb over and I'm going to place that in there. Now that, I think that's on too tight, so I'm going to just back that off a little bit. Make that a little bit looser. That's much better. Right, so this shows the two muscles fitted with tendons. So what we need to do now is, right, this is not right. Okay, bear with me guys, something isn't right and I'm just going to have a little look. So my apologies for that. I was looking at the next stage and I wasn't 100% happy, I'll be honest with you. What we're going to be doing next is we're going to be screwing these two together. Whoops, the nuts just fell out. Now there's a hole there, and what's going to happen is sorry, let me just find it. So we're going to screw those together like that. However, what I wasn't happy about was that this piece here, it hits that leg at an angle, and it's got to kind of be pulled around a bit. I'm not 100% happy with that. So I was checking, maybe I got this bit wrong. This is absolutely spot on though. The only area of concern that I have is that this piece, one of these should have a 2 on them and it doesn't. They both have a 1 on. So I'm going to be making some inquiries. I'm going to be going ahead with this, but I'll make some inquiries, and maybe I've been sent the incorrect part in a previous stage. I don't know. So like I say, I'll carry on with this. So this nut that keeps falling out, I'm going to try and get back in. I really am struggling with this nut. There we go. So that nut can go in there like that, and we're going to keep it there so it doesn't fall out. So what's going to happen is we're going to need this I've forgotten the name of it now. It's a PM 3x16mm. Now I can see from this nut that it's going to go facing that way, which means that we've got the circular bit there is going to be against the plate. So on that basis we've got a circular bit there and a flat bit there. So I'm going to place the circular bit that side as well. Now the way I'm going to do this is that I'm going to place the screw into the tendon, like so. I'm going to place that, lift this up, try to prevent the nut from falling out. I'm going to thread that through the hole like so, and then I'm going to bring this in, holding that nut in place, and then just going to screw until I get a bite on that nut, which I've got. So once I've got all of that in place, I can check the fit, and then I can continue to screw, and I'm holding that nut even though I don't need to, and I'm holding going to screw that as tight as I can, well, tight, and I'm going to check the movement, and as you can see they both move absolutely fine. So, and as you can see, the way tendons work is they have a push-pull operation. So what's happening is this one's contracting and this one's extending, and then as I move it back, this one will extend and this one will contract. So you see, and that's how the tendons work. So that leaves us with this flabby tendon there, which obviously that's going to get connected in a later stage. These two tendons have been assembled properly. We also have, they advertise that we have a spare part here, and we also have this part here from another issue. Now I suspect, yes, something's going to go into here eventually, because this has got a shape. That's going to go into there like that, and this is going to go into there like that, and that will get bolted together. Okay guys, so hope you've enjoyed this video. I have no idea what's coming next issue at the moment, because this is, I'm doing the Agora packs, and this is stage 60, which means that stage 61 will come in pack 7, which I haven't received yet, so it's going to be a total surprise to me, but have a wonderful week guys, and hopefully I will catch you for the next episode. Take care, bye bye.